So we're Meta Science, and I'm Elliot,
I'm Tristan.
and we're going to be doing an in-depth guide to Susanos Storm Kata today.
So, Storm Kata is a move or an ability that has 3 move sets. It has 2 attacks and then it has a dash. And
Yep.
yeah, cool, thanks. The damage
Yep.
the damage is 70 to start plus 35 per level, and it has 80% scaling, and that's per move. So it'll do double that.
Do a lot more.
It'll do a double that if you count for both of the attacks.
And each part of Storm Kata is going to give you the 3-second gap to cast the next one. And this isn't ability restricting, so you can auto, you can active. I mean, you could just pop Sanctuary in between each of these abilities if you wanted to, and still have time to cast the next one, or the next part of Storm Kata. So this ability really just opens up a lot of combos for Susano's kit. It has good spread damage, so you can be used as sort of a bruiser assassin in some cases, but the damage is really just great on overall single target as well. So really versatile. This is really the core of his kit. So do we want to talk about the individual parts?
Yeah, I'll go over the first part. So the first part is a cone attack. It has a 30 unit distance and a 35 unit width, and you should see those on the screen right now. The cast time is 0.2 seconds, and the damage is 80% of your power plus 70, and then plus 70 plus 35 per level.
Yeah, 80 scaling, and the unit width is from the longest end, or from the widest 2 points of the cone.
Right, there should be an arrow that helps show all this.
Yep. You guys will see that. So the second part is also 30 units circular, but this ability is a little weird. It has it attacks in a cone in front of you, which is the same hitbox as the first cone, and then it circles around you clockwise, so it hits people on the left of you last. So I'll hit him. I'll hit him on the left of me, and you'll see that the number doesn't really come up until kind of later. So that's delayed. If you hit them in front of you where the cone is, or somewhere to the right of you, then it's going to be pretty instant. Yeah, so the numbers come up at pretty much the same time. So that's just something to note in very micro interactions. Whenever you cast that, you're not going to hit people on the left of you until last. And the cast time for this ability is 0.3 seconds, so a little bit a little bit slower than the first part of Storm Kata, but it does the same damage, 80% scaling, and this one is really the bulk of when you're going to hit multiple targets. So if you're somebody who likes to build beater stick, oh shit, wait. No, beater stick doesn't work with this anymore, does it? Nope.
Oh, that was recently patched out, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I guess this is a good time to also talk about the changes. So they stopped beater stick, like Rune Forge, and basically just item effects to not work on all the parts of Storm Kata. Now it just works on the first, but like also Bluestone as well. But Hydras itself does still proc. So a lot of people are building Hydras. You can still build Hydras. It does the same thing now. So
I like building
it's really
Hydras.
not a problem. Yep. So let's go on to the third. You want to talk about that one?
First, I think that I should reiterate what the cast time is. So the cast time is basically how long it takes until you can perform another action after casting it. And so it's the full duration of how long you start to cast it until the very end, where you can actually do something else, like cast a pot or another ability or auto attack or other things like that.
Yeah. This cast time is pretty much how long your animation locked. So we tested this by using macros that basically just spam another action after the ability, like at 100 times a second or more, and we basically got it to. We have most of these timers to like the 10th of a decimal at least. So pretty accurate.
Of course, I would take them with a grain of salt just because we're a bunch of amateurs testing these things. But I think these are
there's
pretty
also
accurate.
server inconsistencies as well, and we'll talk about ping later. But yeah, you can generally take it for granted that the cone attack, the first attack, is roughly 0.2 seconds, and the second part, which is the circular, is 0.3 seconds, which is going to be slower.
All right. So I guess let's talk about the dash. So it does not deal damage. This is just a mobility dash. It does proc Hydras, which you mentioned that the other two do. And so that's why Hydras is a pretty great item for this character, because all three of his parts of one proc Hydra.
3 procs is a lot for one ability.
Yeah. It goes 40 units. However, a lot of times it decides to go 30 or 35 instead.
Yeah, it's not that consistent. You can see. So I line my dash up to go to him, but I go behind him. That's because the basically the dash shows 30 units, but you actually travel most of the time 40.
Yeah, that was 40.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. It says 30.
I mean,
it honestly does.
yeah,
But
I mean the icon also or the ground hitbox also shows 30, but it's inaccurate. The real problem with this ability isn't the fact that it travels 40 rather than 30. Like, you can get used to that, but the real big problem is just the inconsistency, that sometimes it actually will travel 30, and sometimes it even goes 35. Like, it's completely unreliable. Most of the time it will go 40, but sometimes you'll end up much closer or much further from the point you expect it to be.
yeah.
Yeah, and this ability is also not an iframe. Susano's kit has no iframes in it, so you really can't immunity any damage with his natural kit. He's great for dodging, or his kit is great for dodging abilities, but he won't actually be able to immunity any damage. So if you cripple him, then you're basically just going to be able to follow up every ability after that. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Like, if you dash on top of a Yanis portal, or a trap, or a dot, even like Agni's fire or whatever, you're still gonna take the dot or get trapped in a Yanis portal, something like that.
Yeah. This dash has a 0.4 second cast time, which is a bit longer than the other two.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like it's decently fast, but you actually spend a pretty long time in that animation. 0.4 seconds is double the cone attack's cast time. So really, if you dash, you are traveling a lot of distance for 0.4 seconds, but you're also sacrificing the fact that you're going to be animation locked for 0.4 seconds as well. So you can't just like dash Aegis immediately if damage is about to come through.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about how we got our timers for the distance, or the time in between each ability?
The macro that I made?
Yeah, so how basically how we tested how much time is in between each part of Storm Kata.
Right, so I made a macro that all I would do is press it once, and then it would cast my Storm Kata, and it would try to cast, and I timed it to where it would try to cast at the last second available. However, if I did it for 3 seconds, it actually had a lot left on its little timer passive, which you can see over here, and after I do an ability, it starts after the cast time is completely done.
Yeah, I mean, so your macro, like, the biggest thing that we had is we had your delays in your macro, right? And the delays were sometimes over, or well, they always were over 3 seconds.
Yeah, because you have to account for the cast time as well.
Yeah,
because
which
it doesn't actually
cast time.
start the 3 seconds until after the entire thing is done.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's something that would be really hard to tell without macros or without slow-mo. So just for players of Susano, it's important that you know that the cast time for the first 2 abilities isn't going to affect the time for you to cast the next one. So maximize those 3 seconds, but we will be talking about, when we talk about the ping later, we're going to be talking about how you actually don't have 3 seconds because of ping. But before that, I will talk about the scaling. So the first and second moves, naturally, they both do damage. They both do, like we said earlier, 80% scaling and 70 plus 35 per level. But in most cases, if you're 1v1ing or even in a team fight, you're usually still going to aim around one person. Your abilities may hit multiple people, but you're probably focusing on one person. And so it's good to know the scaling that you're going to hit for both abilities total, which would be 160% power scaling plus 140 base damage plus 70 per level of base damage. So it does a lot of damage. It used to be 10% scaling more per ability, so you had something like 180% scaling. The base damage was the same. So it's a decently sized nerf. I mean, you lose 20% scaling from the ability as a whole, but I just DC'd. But that's not really I mean, that's 20%'s not really a lot if you consider that auto attack damage already does 100% power scaling. I mean, if you miss an auto, then you're already losing so much more damage than Susano pre-nerf. So I'm gonna log back on. Do you want to talk about why we max this and things like that?
So if you take a look at the cooldown, it goes down by a second every time you level it up, and so that's useful since this is basically the thing that allows you to dish out the majority of your damage. And then on top of that, it gains 35 damage per base level, which we've mentioned. However, that's per hit, so that's total 70 damage. And then if you take a look at your ult, for example, that does 50 damage per time you level it up. Yes, you can hit multiple people with this, but you probably are going to only cast this once every couple minutes because it has a 100-second cooldown, and you're probably not going to be in a big fight with a lot of people every 100 seconds. And so you'll be casting your Storm Kata a lot more often, on top of the fact that it does more damage typically, and especially if you can get it off like twice a fight. And then not only that, you wave with it, or clear wave, and then you also go and clear jungle buffs, and
you slash wave with it.
Yeah, you But so typically I think that it's better to level this up at level 9 instead of getting your ult, or to getting your ult to plus to level 2, because it just does more damage overall, and especially whenever you can do it more often because it has a lower cooldown, and then you can hit just as many people with your ult depending on what the fight is and how you're going about it.
Yeah, I mean, the only situation in which I really see it to be useful to level up the ult would be if you were really planning to hit like more than 3 targets with your ult that you couldn't have hit with Storm Kata. Like if you were going to use your ult as a snipe on 3 targets, like that's not too unreasonable. It could happen sometimes. Like, let's say you hit level 9 and you're just walking up to Gold Fury and you see their whole team and you want to hit Gold Fury plus their whole team, then sure, go ahead and level up your ult. But if you were actually proactive and you wanted to get out as much damage as possible, then you would probably just run into the middle of their team and just Storm Kata and do more damage. So there are scenarios in which you double level your ult at 9, but for the most part you want to just get that next level into Storm Kata. And of course later when we do the Jetstream video, we'll also talk about how Jetstream itself technically can even do more damage than leveling up the ult. So the ult's really not that valuable. It's a good knock up, it's good spread damage, but
it's only 50 damage.
Yeah, it's just not as strong as the scaling on the other abilities. So yeah, Storm Kata extremely strong, but it's even stronger if you auto weave with it. So auto weaving basically just auto canceling. You want to cancel your animation for your auto as soon as you do it. So there's the wind up time before you deal damage with your auto, and then after you do damage, there's the cooldown time, like where you're finishing out the animation. And you can cancel that with the ability, and you can cancel that a total of 3 times with Storm Kata by autoing. Then you Storm Kata, auto Storm Kata, auto Storm Kata. And if you watch our combos video, you'll see that you can actually auto cancel extremely quickly and output a lot more damage than you usually would. I mean, remember, autos are 100% of your power scaling, so if you do that in between each part of Storm Kata, you're actually just like more than doubling your damage. It's pretty insane, Susanoo's damage potential when you auto weave. Like if you're not auto weaving, then you're either committing to a playstyle in which you are just based on poking as fast as you can and getting out, or you're just playing them wrong. Like if there's no reason to not commit to a trade in which you can weave autos, unless potentially you're against another assassin, melee assassin that are warrior that you can't, that you don't want to actually trade their autos with or their close range abilities. Like if you're against Arachne with a dot, then you might want to just spam Storm Kata and run away without trading autos. But in general, auto weaving is the best way to maximize Susanoo's damage. So do you want to talk about how ping works with Storm Kata and the interaction that it has?
Sure. So we tested at pings of about 70 to 100, which you can hit F8 and C. I have 70 ping right now. And this was basically a weird buggy interaction to where I would cast my Storm Kata at the very last possible second, and on my screen it would look like it went through, and then it would stop about halfway and then put me back to where I was. So I would dash and I would go about halfway and then be teleported back, and yet the other people on the in the server wouldn't see that at all. So I don't know if I could be able to replicate it, but it's basically holding it at the last second and then doing it, and then it won't go through. But there, I messed up.
Yeah.
But it's based on your ping most likely. So ping is so it's 1,000 milliseconds equals 100
1,000
seconds.
millisecond in a second.
A second. Right.
So yeah, most people have 70 to 100 ping. So that's, if you have 100 ping, then that would be a tenth of a second, and basically you're left with 2.9 seconds in between each ability. Because if you cast it during that last 0.1 second, then you're gonna get the server bug where you register it because you technically did it within 3 seconds, but the server didn't register it because, you know, the delay to actually get the information to their servers. So
I think I might have gotten it there.
You got it?
Might have.
Well, I mean, we will also show them in the overlay, so you guys will be able to see all this stuff in our actual testing. But yeah, that's just something to note. If you're going to get into the micro timings of understanding the cast time and all that, then you should also understand that you don't actually have 3 seconds and you have 2.9. Or if you're running at like 150 ping sometimes, which some people do, you actually have even less time. It's not
going to be exact.
Perfect. Yeah. But I mean, if you also count like the fact that cast times for the first 2 abilities are 0.2 and 0.3 seconds, then technically you have more than 3 seconds from the time you cast the first ability, but you certainly don't actually have time where you can perform an action of a whole 3 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be trying to get to high competitive play, then you'd probably want to be able to account for every fraction of a second, because it could matter in a really
if you're not on land, then you're getting delays, and it can be pretty nasty sometimes whenever you like, for example, you just cast the second part of your Storm Kata and it goes through on your screen, yet you do no damage to anybody else, and then your whole ability goes on cooldown, and then you're a sad Susano. So it's good to keep these numbers in mind. But playstyle wise, I would just remember to auto weave in between each Storm Kata. Remember its cast times, and the really odd things, the oddities with these abilities is you have to remember that the circular attack rotates around you clockwise after hitting in a cone in front of you, and that the dash sometimes doesn't go 40 units, even though it says it goes 30 units. It most of the time goes 40 units. So yeah, Susano is pretty janky. We're gonna be doing all his other abilities, right?
Yeah, we have plans for all of his other abilities. I think we tested it all. We just have to make it into the video. But it's going to be also telling about cast times and other crazy interactions that we found, and all sorts of numbers and sciencey stuff. So
Yeah, we have cast times for all of it. We have a lot of data, a lot of opinions. We have like a 8-page document of like wide-paged facts, just like pure facts. And we're trying to convert that into videos. So if you guys think this is interesting, and you're really curious about the number crunching and the microplay of Smite and the gods, then we'll probably end up doing videos like on autos. Like I'm sure you guys aren't aware of which gods do and don't have auto attack delays, and exactly at what point the damage goes through on an auto depending on your attack speed, things like that. So yeah, we are meta science, and we're going to be sciencing Smite for the time being. So if you like it, support us.
yeah, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments, and we'll be sure to get to you.
Yep.
Love to have heated discussions on Smite and
Very
science.
heated with the Smite picky community, but I hope they're picky, because only picky people would give a care about this ridiculous information. So yeah, hope you enjoy, and watch us next time.